So overnight it stays mild and cloudy, like I mentioned. You'll be hard pushed to see the moon through the first part of the night, certainly. Across northern areas, though, behind this weather front, which will be sinking southwards, it'll introduce some slightly clearer, cooler air and some rain as well. But to the south, it stays cloudy and mild, temperatures in double figures once again. So into Tuesday, subtle changes. That weather front with some cooler, fresher air behind it moves southwards a little bit, but it looks like for much of England and Wales, again, a cloudy day, similar to today's, and a very mild one. But to the north, a little bit brighter and a touch fresher as well. Temperatures 10 to 12 here, but again, 15 or 16 across the south. So that mild air gets pushed off in towards the near continent by the middle latter part of the week, and then we're into the blue colours. The cold air right across is introducing sunshine and showers, some of them wintry on the higher ground, and also overnight frosts. This wonderful graph shows those temperatures overnight dropping away as the week wears on. By the time we reach Friday, we're back to the overnight frost and into the weekend, sub-zero temperatures for many of us. So here's the picture for Wednesday, though. We'll have some pretty heavy rain across parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, maybe some hail and thunder mixed into that. As it moves southwards, it'll introduce much colder air to northern areas, but here brighter with a few showers, but notice some winteriness over the high ground. By Thursday, I think we lose the mild air from all southern parts of the UK, and into Friday, then we're all into the single figures. Cold, some sunshine, around 1 or 2 showers. They will be wintry over the high ground, and a return to the overnight frost. Simon.
Stav, thank you very much. A reminder of our top story this lunchtime. Scientists say 2016 is heading to be the hottest year ever recorded, with temperature increases getting close to the global climate agreement. Dementia, including Alzheimer's, has overtaken heart disease as the leading cause of death in England and Wales. That's all from the BBC News at 1, so it's goodbye from me. And on BBC One, we now join the BBC's news teams where you are. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Now a look at the day's sports news live from the BBC Sports Centre with me, Jessica Crichton. England captain Wayne Rooney could be a doubt for their friendly against Spain tomorrow. Rooney missed training this morning ahead of that match. In a recent improvement in form, Rooney returned to the starting lineup and captained the side that beat Scotland 3-0 in the 2018 World Cup qualifier last Friday. Southampton's Ryan Bartrand also missed training. Both are said to be suffering from minor issues. World number 1 Andy Murray plays his opening match at the ATP World Tour Finals tonight against Marin Cilic. Murray has already had an impressive year, and it's a chance for the Briton to strengthen his position at the top of the world ranking. Murray overtook Novak Djokovic, of course, in the standings last week, and his former coach Miles McLagan believes Murray will remain the best in the world for a while yet.
Watching him over the last few months, it's hard. We wonder how someone's going to beat him. He's in such good shape and just so determined to get through every match. And I think what's interesting right now is we had periods where people get to number 1 and they don't particularly seem comfortable. I think this is what he wants. So we've got 2 guys who want to be at the top of the tree. So it should make for some interesting competition.
Cricket now, and Yorkshire have appointed their captain, Andrew Gale, as the new first-team coach. Gale, who you can see here on the right, succeeds Jason Gillespie, who stepped down at the end of last season in the summer. Gale has ended his playing career to take up the role. He spent his entire career at the club, captaining the side for the past 7 years. England cricket head coach Trevor Bayliss believes Hasib Hamid is years ahead of schedule as a Test cricketer. 19-year-old Hamid hit a second innings 82 on his debut in the drawn first match in India. It was the highest Test score made by an English teenager in Test history.
He's got a very good technique, but I think it's his temperament. He leaves very well. He knows his strengths and he sticks with it. He plays spin very well. He's just got a pretty good all-round game. People were telling me, he's not a big hitter, but to skip down the wicket and hit Jadeja back over his head for 6 early in that second innings was a sign that he is probably improving, but he's got a lot of improvement in him still. But he seems to be one hell of a player.
Joe Root's century in the first Test means he's moved up to second in the World Test batting rankings. Australia captain Steve Smith is still number 1, but he has a fight on his hands at the moment to save his side against South Africa. Smith helped guide Australia to 121 for 2 in their second innings at the close of the 3rd day of the second Test in Hobart. But they still trailed the tourists by 120 runs. Usman Khawaja scored an unbeaten 50, but Australia are still struggling to save the match and avoid going 2-0 down in the 3-match series. More troubles for rugby league side Bradford Bulls this afternoon. They've been placed into administration for the 3rd time. The championship side entered administration in both 2012 and 2014. And they faced a winding up petition from HM Revenue and Customs in October. Bulls chairman Mark Green said he had been talking to investors but feels that pressure from HMRC has forced the club to be put into administration to save its future. British speed skater Elise Christie is now the 500-metre world record holder. Christie clocked the time in her quarter-final of the World Cup event in Salt Lake City, but she fell in the final. The 26-year-old is yet to win a world or Olympic title. England's Sarah Hunter has capped an impressive season by winning Rugby Union's World Women's Player of the Year award. The England captain says she is honoured and overwhelmed to have won. Hunter led the side to a 12-10 win over Ireland yesterday, a match which saw Rochelle Clark become the highest capped England player. Of course, she scored a try in what was her 115th appearance. And on the men's side of things, England's Maro Itoje the Nations and on tour in Australia this year. So that's all the sport for now. You can find more on all those stories, as always, on the BBC Sport website. That's bbc.co.uk/sport. I'll have more for you in the next hour.
Jessica, many thanks indeed. We'll see you a little bit later on. Now, there have been friendly messages from both the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary today about the President-elect of the United States, Donald Trump. The Prime Minister's relationship with him was described as working well, and Theresa May has been invited to Washington. Boris Johnson has said that Donald Trump's election as president could be a good thing for Britain. Well, Mr. Trump has been giving his first big interview since the election to the American CBS network, and this is what he had to say on some of his key election pledges.
Are you really going to build a wall?
Yes.
They're talking about a fence in the Republican Congress. Would you accept a fence?
For certain areas I would, but certain areas the wall is more appropriate. I'm very good at this. This is called construction. But
so part wall, part fence?
Yeah, it could be. There could be some fencing.
What about the pledge to deport millions and millions of undocumented immigrants?
What we are going to do is get the people that are criminal and have criminal records, gang members, drug dealers. We have a lot of these people, probably 2 million, it could even be 3 million. We're getting them out of our country or we're going to incarcerate. But we're getting them out of our country. They're here illegally.
During the campaign, you said that you would appoint justices who were against abortion rights. Will you appoint, are you looking to appoint a justice who wants to overturn Roe v. Wade?
So look, here's what's going to happen. I'm pro-life. The judges will be pro-life. Having to do with abortion, if it ever were overturned, it would go back to the states. So it would go back to the states.
Some women won't be able to get an abortion.
No, it'll go back to the states.
By state? No, some.
Yeah. Well, they'll perhaps have to go to they'll have to go to another state.
Well, I guess the issue for them is marriage equality. Oh. Do you support marriage equality?
It's irrelevant because it was already settled. It's law. It was settled in the Supreme Court. I mean, it's done.
So even if you appoint a judge that...
It's done. You have... These cases have gone to the Supreme Court. They've been settled, and I think I'm fine with that.
You called her crooked Hillary. Said you wanted to get in jail. Your people in your audiences kept saying lock him up.
Yeah.
She did
some bad things. I mean, she did some bad things.
I know, but a special prosecutor.
I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to hurt them. They're good people. I don't want to hurt them, and I will give you a very, very good and definitive answer the next time we do 60 Minutes together.
They're harassing Latinos, Muslims.
I am so saddened to hear that, and I say stop it if it helps. I will say this, and I'll say it right to the camera, stop it.
So that was Donald Trump giving his first television interview since the election to CBS. Well, we've been talking to James Kirchick, who's from the American news website The Daily Beast, and he gave us his take on Donald Trump's policies, describing them as unpredictable.
I mean, everything about this election and everything about this candidacy, and now this president-elect, I find it strange I even have to say that, has been unpredictable. I mean, there's literally nothing like this in the history of American politics. Not only his political views, but also the fact that we now have a president who's going to have a business empire simultaneously, and he'll be in a position where he could use the vast influence and reach of the world's largest economy and most powerful country to enrich himself, which causes many potential conflicts of interest. So we've never seen anything like this in the United States, and I am actually quite worried, to be honest.
Well, that was James Kirchick from the American news website The Daily Beast, talking to us a little bit earlier on. Here, cases of dementia, including Alzheimer's disease, have now become the leading cause of death in England and Wales, overtaking heart disease. Last year, more than 61,000 people died of the disease, and that's more than a tenth of all recorded deaths. The Office for National Statistics says the change is largely because people are living for longer and doctors are getting better at spotting dementia. Well, Dave Bell, who's from Dementia UK, has been telling us that dementia is not only a cause of death, but also a continuing factor in many other cases.
I mean, the statistics never tell the whole story, and we know that of the deaths that are reported where dementia is part of that, and the Public Health England came out with some statistics for this last month. Dementia now contributes to something like 15% of deaths overall, but it's a contributory factor as much as it's a cause of death itself. Obviously, in the very end stages of dementia, systems stop working basically, but something like 30% of those cases of that are reported where dementia contributes to the death are people also have respiratory diseases. Another 30% people also have circulatory diseases. So there's stroke and pneumonia and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. All those things contribute. And if you don't mind me saying, I think doctors are getting better at it, at reporting it. Something like 40% of those deaths at least occur in care homes as well. So we know that it's GPs who cover those care homes who are recognising what's happening, that dementia is contributing. If you have dementia, it reduces your resistance to other illnesses. It also means that other people don't recognise symptoms as clearly as they could do. So people aren't treated as well as they could be. We reckon that only 17% of people who have dementia just have dementia. They have most of them have other comorbidities, other illnesses that affect the progress of dementia as well. So as I say, the statistics don't tell the whole story.
Dave Bell there from Dementia UK. Let's bring you more now on our main news this afternoon. Climate experts saying that 2016 is likely to be the warmest year since records began in the late 19th century. The World Meteorological Organization says global temperatures this year were even higher than the record-breaking temperatures set in 2015. Let's speak to Professor Joanna Haigh, who's from the Grantham Institute. That is the Climate Research Unit of Imperial College London. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. Are you surprised by this news that 2016 is likely to be the hottest year recorded globally ever?
Unfortunately not. I mean, we've got an ongoing upward trend in temperature, and that's been added to over the last couple of years by a big El Niño event, which makes it even warmer than it would be otherwise.
And in terms of the climate change agreement, are we going in the right direction on that?
Oh, unfortunately not. And I mean, it was great that the people all agreed in Paris to have this agreement, but now we need some action. I really need people to do something about reducing the CO2 and going to green energy and cutting CO2 emissions.
So what you're feeling is that people have signed up to that, but they're not actually implementing it?
Well, let's hope they are. They haven't had much of a chance yet. Let's hope in Marrakesh there will be an international agreement to do that and more.
Because, of course, in the United States, one of the biggest polluters historically, President-elect Donald Trump is looking for ways to pull out of the climate change agreement.
Yes, I think that's very worrying indeed, really very sad. But let's hope the rest of the countries will carry on with their commitments. And indeed, countries like China are now very well on message and doing a lot and heading in the right direction. And so let's hope that the United States can realise there's advantages in moving to green energy that are not just in terms of meeting international agreements, but also in terms of reducing energy costs and improvements to health and things. Well, so there's lots of co-benefits.
Do you think the climate change agreement in itself goes far enough, whether or not it's properly implemented?
Well, the agreement said that they'd aim to get global temperatures to well below 2 degrees above pre-industrial and preferably to 1.5. I think that 1.5 would be great. I think that's quite ambitious, but it would be good if we could aim for that.
And we're getting hotter and hotter, it seems, according to the statistics. 2015 hotter than previous years and 2016 hotter than 2015. Is that the trend you think is just going to continue year on year?
Well, it's not uniformly up every single year because there's other factors in the climate system that make it go up and down from year to year for other reasons. But the underlying trend, it will just carry on going up. The carbon dioxide's higher than it has been for 3 million years. It's carrying on going up. It'll keep on warming.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your analysis. Professor Joanna Haigh there from the Grantham Institute. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, in a moment, we're going to have a summary of all the latest business news this hour. But first, our headlines. And as we've just been discussing, this year looks like being the hottest year ever on record. That's despite global carbon emissions from fossil fuels stabilising. Donald Trump reaffirmed some key election pledges and tells people not to be afraid of his presidency. Sweden's chief prosecutor is at the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where Julian Assange is being interviewed about a sex allegation.
Hello, I'm Susanna Streeter in the business news. A claim that energy suppliers are making larger profits than they've admitted to is to be investigated by the Business Secretary Greg Clark. The Sun newspaper claimed that the gas and electricity firms may be making 6 times more than they state. However, the trade body Energy UK rejected the Sun's claims, saying they were a misrepresentation of the facts. The introduction of the national living wage has increased the financial pressure for care homes, particularly for smaller homes, according to a new report. Accountancy firm Moore Stephens says 12% of care homes have at least a 30% chance of going insolvent within the next 3 years. A wave of selling sweeping across bond markets has resumed today as investors continue to digest the impact of the Donald Trump presidency. US and European bond prices have sunk in expectation that he'll enact inflationary policies that speed the pace of interest rate rises. British 10-year government bond yields have risen to their highest level since the end of May. US President-elect Donald Trump has awarded key roles in his incoming team to a top Republican Party official and a right-wing media chief. Reince Priebus, chairman of the Republican National Committee, will be his chief of staff, and Stephen Bannon from the Breitbart News Network will serve as Mr. Trump's chief strategist. So as Donald Trump's political team starts to take shape, we're also looking at who could be his key economic appointments. Mr. Trump's transitional team has spent the past few months quietly building a short list of industry leaders and conservative activists. Well, let's go straight over to Michelle Fleury, who's in New York and who can tell us more. So, Michelle, who and what are the best guesses for his top team of economic advisors, those key economic appointments?
Well, I think people have been looking, first of all, at who has been some of Donald Trump's most loyal lieutenants. And on the economic front, the names that keep coming up again and again, certainly for the role of Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin is one of them. He's a former Goldman Sachs banker who has dabbled in the past in backing Hollywood films. He's been a constant sort of in the inner circle of Donald Trump. Another name is Thomas Barak from Colony Capital, a hedge fund, also being mentioned. In terms of sort of establishment names, if you like, Jeb Henseling is chairman of the House Financial Services Committee. He's a name being mentioned. He has in the past been vocal of his criticism of the Dodd-Frank law, would like to see that